Today's verses are from Matthew chapter 4, verses 18 to 22. And the title of this is Jesus Calls His First Disciples. Now let me read those verses. While walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, in the boat with Zebedee, their father, mending their nets, and he called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Now, this is not the first meeting of Jesus with these men. That meeting is recorded in John chapter 1, verses 35 through 43. It took place in Jerusalem, and we know that Simon and Andrew were there, and probably John, because in John's gospel, he doesn't often mention his own role, and by the same token, his bringing his brother James. So, the verses today from Matthew is the second meeting of Jesus with these men. And now Jesus is going to formally call them to be his disciples and train them to be evangelists. The verses from Mark chapter 1, verses 16 through 20, record the same story, just about word for word. And then the account given in Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 11, is supportive, although it's slightly different. So let's look at some background information about the region. The Sea of Galilee, also known as Lake Gennesaret, is oval and shaped. It's about 14 miles long by about 6 miles wide. It's located inland between mountains and hills, and it's also below sea level. But the water is fresh, it's clear, it's healthy, and it was loaded with fish. And this region, at the time of the occurrence, was well populated. There were cities all around its shores, and the great caravan routes ran through there. Now let's look at some circumstances of the call. These men were doing what they normally would do. They were involved in their work. And they had already met Christ, but now they're going to learn that he is calling them for a different reason. The call itself in this meeting. Well, the call comes from with a command and also a promise. And it comes with the voice of authority. Jesus is declaring his sovereignty over this. And its meaning, it's calling them for a full surrender to a different, new love and a new devoted life. And this will go on for the rest of their lives. And their response? Immediate. This is evidence of the clear call of Jesus on the heart of the elect. Now, what about us? Do we let me ask some questions. These are for me as well as for yourself. We know that God still calls people today, but he doesn't call all his people to the same ministry. And he doesn't require all of his people who he calls to give up their secular employment. He knows our hearts. He knows our character. He knows our capability. So his commands come with a promise. And so what we need to ask ourselves is, and these are questions for myself as for you, has some call to Christian ministry come to you? I'm going to read from my list if you don't mind. Have you recognized it? Have you discerned Jesus' voice in it? Have you neglected it? Is your refusal to follow Christ where he leads you coming from a fear that in doing so you will lose out on worldly pleasures, advancement, gain, comfort, or popularity? Remember, his calls for ministry always come as a command and a promise. May we be quick to recognize these and do so. Thanks for watching.